So, David, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts?
You know, it was an amazing year so far for AMD, and I think they're going to continue this closing out this year with their Q4 earnings report, and it should come out strong. I'm looking for additional market share gains almost across the board. I'm eager to see what their GPU business looks like, but from what I've seen of their CPU architecture, which frankly, versus chief rival Intel in every major market that AMD serves, desktop, servers, mobile clients now too. They had a big announcement at CES in Las Vegas this year in January. I expect they have superior technology in some cases. They have very competitive technology in others, and I think they're going to continue to take some additional share from Intel in those primary markets.
Right, and that's what we have been seeing. Intel has done well with their numbers, but you're right, losing a little market share to Advanced Micro. Daniel, what are you thinking?
So the PC market appears to still be growing in a way that it hasn't in many years, and I think AMD is poised to pick up, as David said, some net market share just from a growing market in general, but also stealing some away from Intel deservedly. And I think what will be interesting, AMD has excelled in desktop performance in the last couple of years, but Intel really still owns the laptop market in a way that AMD has had trouble making gains in. Even though it's estimated to have a 15% share, Intel is still the leader when it comes to performance per watt. And I think with this 7 nanometer switch to the new Ryzen 4 series, AMD is going to be much more competitive in terms of battery life and overall clock performance per clock, and that should net some serious gains throughout 2020.
So there was an article entitled, "Should You Buy AMD Before the Earnings?" It sounds like you both like the company. I don't know the timing of when you get into these kinds of stocks. David, when do you get in, whether it's AMD or another one of your favorites? How do you do this?
It's a tough call. I mean, honestly, I think AMD is poised based on their technology base that I mentioned earlier. I think they're poised for additional share gains versus Intel. If you look at Intel's strong Q4 earnings themselves, bolstered by the PC market as well as the server market, you can see that there's a trend here in Q4 that AMD should enjoy as well. I think today, unfortunately or fortunately as the case may be, there's an opportunity to buy on the dip. I think there was a big run up recently for AMD, and so maybe this pullback is a good opportunity for that. The other thing you need to consider with AMD is that they're also the processor that drives a big chunk of the consumer market in this sector as well, with their footprint in consoles. So they power the Xbox, they power Sony's PlayStation, and as we know, Q4, the holiday shopping season, there's a nice run up in Q4 in that area as well. And so I think probably now is a good time as any, especially with today's little pullback or not so little pullback. Yeah.
Daniel, I want you to expand on that. Tell us what you think. I don't know what the timing really is because it's been such a great run. And then maybe expand it out a little bit because we talk about gaming and we know that Sony and Microsoft have chosen AMD. NVIDIA always seemed to be the gaming chip maker in the past. Your thoughts?
Yeah, AMD's semi-custom business is really just killing it right now. Getting those deals done with Microsoft and Sony so early on in the cycle means that you may get some of that increase in share earlier on. Sony is poised to announce its PlayStation 5 at an event in February. So Microsoft has already announced to some extent the Xbox Series X. We know sort of what is going to be in there. We know that the GPU in that console will be based on next-gen AMD architecture, which is going to be very competitive with NVIDIA for the first time in many years. Although rumors don't always play out, and there are so many other factors. The GPU market in particular is very sensitive to things like driver performance, which is very in the weeds. But when you think about these companies' relationships with the vendors and the game makers, it's a lot easier to look at something like the consoles and see, okay, well, this will be powered by AMD. It's going to be considerably more powerful than previous generation consoles. And many, many gamers are going to be happy this fall. So AMD will have a bump from that. I just don't know if it's already built into the stock.
Okay, and all these stocks, by the way, in the group are selling off 2-3%. Just a quick 10, 15-second thought. Huawei is poised to get the go-ahead for UK's 5G networks tomorrow. David, your quick thought.
Relative to AMD
some of these
or
chip
for
makers,
5G?
because sometimes just these 5G or however you want to broad base this out.
Yeah, I think the chip sector in general right now is enjoying a bit of a renaissance again. I mean, we're seeing certainly lots of new technologies that are enabling new experiences, and that's what I think is what's key here. When you look at the chip stock that you might be considering for your portfolio, look at the companies that are part of these major trends. As you noted, 5G, it's a big one. Here you've got folks like Qualcomm powering that experience. In the case of computing, look at some of the major trends there as well. We all know that cloud business is huge these days. Everything's going to the cloud. Software as a service, Microsoft Cloud, Amazon AWS, and Microsoft Azure.
Right.
Excuse me.
I got to give it
Cloud
over to Daniel.
and Microsoft Azure. Yeah.
Daniel?
Well, in regards to Huawei and 5G, my answer is good luck with that. I do not see the U.S. allowing that to happen. I don't see it playing out in the UK. But, in terms of Huawei, they are not going away. They're not competitive in the desktop CPU or GPU space. But in terms of mobile, they are extremely, extremely competitive. And Qualcomm should look over its shoulder.